Do you know what it feels like to wake up and immediately feel behind in life? That was Arjun's reality every single day. He would scroll through his phone, seeing friends posting about new jobs, expensive vacations, shiny cars, and endless celebrations. And with every swipe, a small voice inside him whispered, "You're not good enough." Arjun was a bright young man. He had talent, dreams, and ambition. But instead of nurturing his own path, he kept comparing his life to others. When a classmate scored higher on an exam, he felt like a failure. When a colleague got promoted, he questioned his own worth. When someone on social media bought a new phone, he felt poor, even though he had everything he needed. Comparison became his daily poison. At first, it seemed harmless, just noticing what others had. But slowly, it started controlling his life. He studied not to learn, but just to beat others. He worked not to grow, but to prove himself. And every time he failed to measure up, the disappointment cut him deeper. Arjun's parents often reminded him of his strengths. His friends encouraged him. But their words never reached his heart, because his eyes were always fixed on someone else's journey. Instead of celebrating small wins, he punished himself for not being the best. One day, during a college competition, Arjun put his heart and soul into a project. He stayed awake nights, preparing, improving, pushing himself harder than ever. But when the results were announced, he stood second place. Everyone congratulated him, but Arjun couldn't hear it. All he saw was the one student standing above him, holding the first place trophy. That night, Arjun sat in his room staring at the ceiling. His project was good. His effort was real. But his joy? It was stolen by comparison. From that day, things only got worse. He avoided group hangouts because he didn't want to hear about others' successes. He started doubting himself in interviews, convinced someone else was always better. He even stopped enjoying his hobbies, painting, music, reading, because they didn't make him the best. Comparison was no longer just a habit. It had become a cage. The conflict inside him was clear. Arjun was running a race he could never win, because the finish line kept moving. Every time he reached a goal, someone else was already ahead. And instead of feeling proud, he felt defeated. This constant battle drained him emotionally. He became anxious, restless, and frustrated. His mind was filled with self-doubt. Why can't I be like them? Why am I always behind? The irony was painful. Arjun wasn't failing because he lacked talent. He was failing because he kept measuring his life with someone else's ruler. And maybe you felt the same. Maybe you've looked at someone else's success and thought, "I'll never get there." Maybe you've ignored your progress because it didn't look shiny enough compared to others. That's the trap of comparison. It makes you blind to your blessings. It steals your peace. And it convinces you that you're not enough, even when you are. Arjun didn't know it yet, but this storm of comparison was about to teach him the most powerful lesson of his life. Arjun's turning point came on an ordinary afternoon. He was sitting in the college library, frustrated after losing another internship opportunity. His mind repeated the same old story: someone else is smarter. Someone else is better. Someone else deserves it more. An elderly professor noticed him and asked gently, "Why do you look so defeated, Arjun?" Arjun sighed. "Sir, no matter how much I try, there's always someone ahead of me. I feel like I'll never win." The professor smiled kindly and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do you know when a horse wears blinders in a race? It's not because the horse is weak. It's so the horse doesn't get distracted by others. It runs its own race. Arjun, life is the same. Stop looking sideways. Start looking forward. Those words struck him deeply. Run your own race. That night, Arjun made a decision. He would no longer waste energy comparing himself to others. Instead, he would measure himself against only one person, who he was yesterday. At first, it wasn't easy. Old habits whispered in his ear, look at his grades. Look at her success. But every time comparison tried to sneak in, Arjun reminded himself, I'm running my own race. He began focusing on small, daily improvements. Instead of competing for the top grade, he aimed to learn one new concept better than the day before. Instead of chasing promotions like his colleagues, he worked on sharpening his own skills. Instead of scrolling endlessly on social media, he practiced gratitude for what he already had. Slowly, something amazing happened. Arjun started to feel lighter. The constant stress that had once weighed on his shoulders began to fade. He rediscovered the joy of learning, of working, of simply living. His confidence returned, not because he was better than others, but because he was better than his past self. Over months, these small steps turned into big results. He performed better in exams, not out of fear, but out of genuine growth. In interviews, he spoke with calm confidence, no longer worried about the competition. And when he finally landed his dream internship, it wasn't because he compared himself, it was because he focused on becoming his best self. The real victory was not the job, the grades, or the achievements. The real victory was the peace inside him. He no longer felt chained by jealousy. He no longer measured his worth by someone else's highlight reel. He had broken free. And with freedom came true success. Arjun's story is proof of a powerful truth: comparison was never his enemy, it was his teacher. It showed him the pain of living for others, and then it pushed him to discover the joy of living for himself. Today, he looks back and realizes, the only race worth running is the one against yesterday's self. And maybe this is your turning point too. Maybe you've been comparing your journey with others, feeling behind, feeling less, feeling unworthy. But remember, you are not in their race. You are in yours. So stop comparing. Start improving. And you'll start winning too. Because the only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday.